you've heard, there was one year, I guess it was probably 2021, I believe. I pulled a stool up right in the front of the stage, and I just talked for 45 minutes to an hour about why why I think my background helped me with where I am today. And in those stories, in my opinion, I'm never a big fan of like the story side of it. If I'm being truthful, it's not like easy for me to get into that. I'd rather just tell you why I think I'm doing the right things now based on what I'm doing now. I guess I don't necessarily like to think about how things have happened and how they have led to things today. That's not necessarily a natural thing for me to talk about. And so our leadership team and of course our CEO, Kathy, said, Jeff, let's do something a little bit different. Instead of focusing so much on the story, let's focus on what came out of that and what people can do right now to win using some of the things that you've learned through the years. So this is something that is, I believe, will be very genuine, be very authentic. And my hope is, because even though after doing this for a little bit, I still get a little nervous up here, especially sharing some personal things. But I also think there's probably things that I don't get the chance to share that I think can make a big impact on you in your personal and professional lives. And so Kathy is going to do her work. She's got her work cut out for her because she's going to have to work to get some of that stuff out of me that I wouldn't necessarily normally share publicly or from the stage.
No, you're fine.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, I just didn't want that to be in the way. Yeah.
it's going to be fun.
I didn't want that
And
to
as
be
soon
in
as
the way.
we're done, we're going to jump back into the 25 skills. And my hope is to at least chip away at that some more before our next break, because this part will probably take 45 minutes to an hour. If I had to guess, Kathy has got some really good questions, and she said, hey, do I have your permission to go deep on some of these? And my first response was, well, how to? And then I said, we're going to trim this to a 30-minute interview, so go as deep as you want in 30 minutes. So nope, I need 45, maybe an hour. Okay, so please join me in welcoming back to the stage Kathy Schweitzer. Well, I'd say this one because your mic's on that side. Yeah.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
We can turn these and talk to each other a little bit, but keep them somewhat near because Adam is back there making sure that everything's centered. Why do you have that look on your face?
Oh,
I feel like I'm at the principal's office.
it's funny. I could never be a principal. Well, maybe I could. Anyway, so we had the conversation a while back with you and I think Taylor and Kate was there, about digging deeper, right? So last year I did interview you.
Yes.
And it was good. We had good feedback and everyone loved it. And I said, there's a side of you that we get to see, right? Because we work closely, and obviously your family gets to see, and your best friends, right? And so, like you said earlier, the thing that I wanted to do is just dig a little deeper, right? And find out what happened, what your life is like, and what makes you tick, right? To do it, because there's so many amazing things, and there's somewhere that it has come to you,
Yeah.
and I've had the blessings to watch it for so many years. So may I start?
Yeah, well, and I will also say, because I did get a chance to look through them, there's some really good, there are some good tactical stuff in here.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that side of it. I prefer to just jump to those.
I know that, but we're not going to.
All right.
Doesn't everyone want to hear this? Say yes. Yes. You ready?
Let's go.
So one of the things that we talked about, and I know sometimes people have heard this already, but remind the audience where you grew up and what was that like?
Sure. So the best way to describe it is I was born in essentially the Westland, Livonia area. I lived in Westland until I was 5. Then lived in Livonia until I was 10. And for those that are not familiar with those communities, they're mostly middle to maybe just under middle class. There's a picture of the house I grew up in right there on Globe Street. Stop by and visited to make sure it was still standing a couple weeks ago. Anyways, you know, middle class America, I guess, is the best way to describe it. And you know, my parents got divorced when I was 10, and so at that time, I lived with my mom. We moved to a place called Belleville, Michigan, technically Sumter Township is what it's called. I used to get picked on a little bit because kids would call it Dumpster Township. It was, you know, not the nicer of the area.
That's awesome.
And yeah, so that would be, I would say, you know, that was a little below blue collar area, I would say. And you know, living in that environment, you know, where the majority of the people going to school are going to school to be, you know, HVAC technicians or auto repair or roofers or siding people. You know, that was not something that I think that my parents thought would be best for me to be in that environment. And so when I was going into high school, I was in 9th grade, I moved in with my dad in Novi, Michigan, which is considered upper class. For those that are not familiar with Metro Detroit, that's definitely, you know, the wealthier part of that side of town. And for me, that was a bit of a culture shock. It wasn't much of a culture shock going from, say, Westland, Livonia to Sumter Township because I was still too young to where kids don't really, you know, I didn't really pick up on the fact that the kids were different, you know, from, say, Livonia to Belleville. But when I went from Belleville to Novi, it was a bit of a culture shock. Because at that point, you know, it was, first of all, I moved in the middle of the 9th grade, so, you know, I didn't have any friends. I take that back, I had one friend in Novi, and I actually convinced my dad, hey, and I'm sure, you know, obviously my mom approved this, otherwise I wouldn't have moved there. There's a photo of me and my dad, by the way. Convinced my dad that I wanted to go be by my friend Brad, and it was going to be a better school system and so forth, so he went ahead and purchased a trailer in Novi, because the houses in Novi were probably $300,000, 400,000, and, you know, I was used to living in homes that were 100,000, 110,000, something like that. So he purchased a trailer in Novi, and you know, I feel like that experience was one of the bigger impacts on me because I had to learn to adapt to people that I didn't feel like I was like.
So the transition from going from one place to another.
Yeah.
So how has that impacted or benefited you?
Well, I got picked fun on a lot at Novi because you know, there's not many trailer parks in Novi, and I had to learn to kind of be a chameleon. And you know, I had to, you know, I wasn't given a lot of money for school clothes. You know, most of the kids at Novi, even back then, were getting $500 to $1,000 to go shopping at the mall, and my budget was like 75 to 100 or 125 maybe on a good year. So, you know, that's probably where my work ethic caught up to me, because then I started working at Circuit City, and you know.
What did you do there?
I sold audio. I was in the audio department.
Okay.
So like the Bose sound systems, you know, surround sound, back and surround sound.
Is that like when you won your first contest, like sales contest?
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. I was.
Wait, how old are you?
I was 16 years old. The #1 salesperson
Thank you.
for Circuit City, the state of Michigan.
How long did that take you to get to the #1 salesperson?
It was my first full year.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, they awarded me a trip to go down to Florida. They take the top 200. They took, I guess, because they're no longer with us. They took their top 200 down to Florida, and at 16 years old, I was one of the 200 in the nation. And you know, my parents obviously didn't think it was appropriate for me to bring my high school girlfriend. So I brought my sister.
Yeah.
My sister. And we had a great time. We acted like we were twins and got into every restaurant and bar. We had a really good time. And, yeah, so I think that experience, learning how to adapt and being versatile, coming into an environment where I was mean, honestly, like I would hear kids talking about like, oh, he lives in the trailer park. Don't ask me where he lives. He lives in the trailer park. When people would ask me, I live in Highland Hills Estates. That's the name of it. But I wouldn't really. I'd get this look, Highland Hills Estates, and it's amazing. High school kids in 9th grade were like, well, we live in a 400,000 house. We live in a 600,000. I mean, honestly, this was the conversation.
It's tough.
And they're like, Highland Hills Estates, why have I never heard of that? Because they all ride their bikes to each other's houses and stuff. Like, oh, it's over on Grand River off Sealy. You've probably never been there. It's an old neighborhood. It's been around for a while. Anyways, where do you live? Like, I would quickly get off the subject. And so, being that I was in a situation where I couldn't necessarily keep up with the Joneses, that forced me to get a job and to start making good money so that way I could keep up with my classmates.
Which is very interesting. That was the Circuit City one.
Yeah.
So the adaptability, right, is something that people struggle with all the time. So what is one piece of advice? I mean, here's a young man, right? He's in 9th grade. He's learning versatility. And a lot of people aren't really good at being versatile now.
Yeah. The biggest piece of advice is, everyone, you can't make decisions for people on what you think their background is and the way they should be. Everyone deserves someone to get to know them. And, it's our job to get to know them.
And I love that. And so in today's world, it would be, like bullying stuff. And we're not going to get into that, but it's tough. And I love what you just said. Yeah, that's super important. So as a child, I know you've had a lot of great memories, and Christy shared a few of them, just so you know.
Oh, no.
And so is your mom. But what are some of the best moments you had as a young man or a child?
Well, I would say when I think of some of my favorite childhood memories, one of them was going to work with my dad Saturday mornings. Saturday mornings.
So tell us what you did.
We hung out. He put me to work. He sent me. He worked in a machine shop in a bad part of Detroit.
Yeah.
So this is where I learned to look over my shoulder a lot, because he'd send me out to get breakfast, and it wasn't a good thing to do. But I got to get my homework done, and I learned. I got to see what my dad did, at work every day, and that was a really cool time.
So tell me why. Why was it so cool?
Because I could guarantee that he was sober. And I saw a different person.
So that's tough. I mean, and obviously real, right? And so let's see, you would go to work, and how many Saturdays was that?
It was like every other Saturday for probably 5 years, 4 or 5 years.
Which is amazing. And then things shifted, changed. What happened?
Obviously at that point I was, older, and this was before obviously high school. This is when I was a little kid. You said favorite memories.
Yeah.
But also before, we talk about that, because there's some things that happened since
Yeah.
then.
Yeah.
I also think about some favorite memories. One for sure with the family, especially, and I have my mom to thank for this, but we would go on a camping trip at Bruin Lake Campground, and that was, although my dad wouldn't necessarily be sober for those, I got to hang out with the rest of the family. I feel like that's when our family was most in line and cohesive.
Yeah. At that time, and how old did you say you were?
Yeah, this was before they were divorced. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Those years.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then I also remember a favorite one with my sister. She would let me run
traffic. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
No, so my parents would go bowling on Sunday nights.
Okay.
And, at that age, you're supposed to go to bed at a reasonable time. But, they would go bowling and stay out till, 10:30, 11, I don't know exactly what time, but it was late. And my sister would stay up until we heard the garage door opening. And then as soon as I hear the garage door opening, I had to sprint to my room, go to bed, and act like I'd been there for hours. So
I did that as
that
a
was
kid too. My older sister did that with me. She's like, stay up till they come home and then you run. So one of the things that I observed about you, about the family, and, your memories, is how close knit you are, right? And I love that. I can relate to some big family person myself. So if I start crying, we're in big trouble. So why is that? I mean, there is a cohesiveness that I can feel when I'm with you, when I see your mom, and when I'm with.
because I think, at the end of the day, we were just raised to be good people and love each other. And, we had a small family, so there wasn't a lot of stuff we did outside of the family because it was a small family. And, I think it's just, I know, for me, when they got divorced at 10, it was, which of course, I'm not alone in that. I mean, more than half of the people in the room probably have
We lived through
parents,
that.
right?
Totally. It's hard.
That was tough on me, at 10 years old. I remember exactly where I was when my mom told me. I just remember thinking, like, what can we do to keep this together? So, I don't know, that's probably has something to do with it maybe.
Yeah, no, I understand completely. So, obviously working with your dad was a big deal, and you have fond memories of it, which brings our heart full of beauty, because sometimes that's all we have left is memories. And thank God we have them, right? So, that's great. So this is going to be tough to follow up with this question, but you had great memories as children. I can still see the love you bring with your family and how close you are with you and your friends. So what was some of the toughest moment that you can remember as a child, or growing up, or in general, just in general?
Well, I think, accepting the fact. It probably took me until my senior year to accept the fact that my dad was an alcoholic,
Mm-hmm.
and then that is a disease,
It is a disease.
not a choice.
It's not a choice. That's right.
And growing up, I think we were hard on him because you feel like just stop drinking,
Yeah. No.
and he didn't have that choice. So that's what comes to mind. I think that one of my more, I don't know if it's a prouder moment, but kind of how I felt better about the whole situation was, during his last 4 or 5 years, I was forced to be closer with him because everyone gave up on him.
Oh. That's so important to get that.
And, going to the rehab facilities.
Yep.
Spending some time, at least seeing that he wanted to do better. But couldn't. I actually thought it was turning the corner because, he was starting to actually get into the idea of going through rehab. And, I remember, that's on the screen. That's the last picture of my dad and I.
Yeah. Thanks.
At one of his last rehab facilities. And somehow these facilities and the people there would help them get through it. And in the end, I still feel like if I would have spent more time with them, I'd still be here.
It's the hardest thing. So, sorry. So, you said something I thought amazing, right? I'll let him wipe his eyes off, right? Is, when other people gave up, he did not. Why? What was that gut? I mean, obviously your soul was guiding you in the love that you had in your heart. You weren't going to give up on him.
Because I felt like I could see something in him that he didn't see himself.
Right.
I knew he had it. But it's a disease. It still is a disease.
And I understand, as you know, I have it in my family as well.
Yep.
And it's very difficult, and it is a disease, and it's, that's not what we're here to talk about today.
Yeah.
That's the truth. And a lot of people judge it, versus understanding that it's a demon. So through all that and moving through it, not that we ever get over it, right? I think everyone can relate. Can never get over the loss of someone you love. What is it that you learned through the whole time?
That, and obviously, I could say, I spent more time with him, could have made a difference. But really, time is the greatest form of love you can show someone.
Yeah.
And,
That's beautiful.
don't get lost in all the units and transactions and the volume and the awards. Don't get me wrong, we're here to do more and do better and make more. And you're going to have some sacrifices, but don't sacrifice it all.
Yeah.
That's what I learned through it.
Yeah. So time is a gift to be with people and love them because we don't know how long we have, but also to give it yourself
Yeah.
when no one else would. And that's what this world needs. I mean, I want to, that's what the world needs.
Yeah.
They need people to give more and stop judging, what others have.
Yeah.
So that's absolutely amazing story. So I have to just ask you this: when you were a little boy, you had 7 eye surgeries before the age of 1.
Yeah, but maybe before 2.
I did a little history.
Yeah, I was born cross-eyed, and they did a surgery on me right away, and then both my eyes, instead of going in, they went out. They went wide. So then I had a third surgery, and then they fixed one, but then the other one went up. So then they fixed that one, and then the other one went up. So yeah, 7 different surgeries all the way. In fact, my last one I think was, I was that kid that had to wear a patch on his eye in elementary school, all the way up until like 5th grade. I think 4th or 5th grade was my last year wearing a patch. And it wasn't every day, but like after a surgery or after seeing the eye doctor, because they were trying to train my eyes to be straight.
Yeah.
So yeah, I dealt with that in elementary school, which, it wasn't probably until 4th or 5th grade where you started getting made fun of for that.
Oh, yeah.
1st through 3rd, the kids, whatever. But yeah, that's something I dealt with. 7 eye surgeries I've had.
So that's so interesting, and I just have to share this. So my twin sister's here, over there. The other day, she had the same issue as he did as a child, and she's like, I've never met anyone who had a lazy eye.
Oh, yeah.
Who had to have, so she had to wear glasses like when she was like,
Yeah.
like 6 months or a year.
It still creeps up every now and again. If you're talking to me, you might, someone's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Okay.
I can see it.
Did anyone bring any patches? Are you exercising right now?
It's so funny with my twin because I can see her lazy eyes sometimes, and I said, now I see the resemblance, with the traveling, but that's an interesting thing to ask about.
Yeah, it just starts wandering a little bit.
So I have to just ask a little deeper question. So does Kelly's. I can't wait for you guys to meet and be like, whoa. What are you doing? But the one thing that I'm hearing, conversation is we'll move forward, right? But is what, you know, Kate did that great conversation with us, I can't remember what event, about resilience, right? Our last event. And being resilient is so critical, and obviously at a young age, you had to learn that. And you went through a lot of adversity just like a lot of people do. So what advice would you give everyone just to be able to build that skill? And sometimes it's natural because you're strong and wise.
Well, I don't know what it was back then, because I was just a kid, but, I mean, today I think about how bad do you want it, what price you're willing to pay. I mean, if you want it bad enough, you'll pay the price. And if you're not willing to pay the price, then don't tell me you want it bad enough. You don't want it.
No, that's very true, Bobby. But you're at that young age to be able to do what you did with your dad and also to live through it and learn from it is one of the things I, of course, always love about you, is that huge desire to learn and to keep moving forward. And that's so super important. So maybe we should subject.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay.
Let's get into business stuff.
So he's like, thank God.
Change the
That's so long,
subject,
right?
I'm sure it's.
So when did you know you wanted to get
so
into real
bad.
estate?
Well, I was selling furniture for a company called Art Van, which was a big furniture chain here in Michigan for years. And
Venture
kind of
capital is
similar to
real.
Circuit City story, I became top 5 in the store. Somebody in the store suggested that